Okay, this is another tutorial. What I want to discuss in this one is the files that you actually get from the Echovox. Some people have been applying different methods of noise extraction, that type of thing. The first lesson that you've really got to take on board is if you've got a sound file and you apply any sort of noise reduction, noise extraction, it may take out some of your noise, but it will also take out part of the sound that you want to keep. Look at sound extraction is the absolute last resort. That when you apply that, the best method is do your utmost to get the best available sound file before you start messing around with using the various noise extraction methods that are out there, normally software based. It will work, but like I say, I have got tutorials on noise extraction. It can be problematic, but there are other methods of removing sound or noise, I should say, from a file. So what I want to do for this, I don't actually use WavePad or any other free software like Audacity. I use Mixcraft. I use a series of Mixcraft 6 and 7. For this one I'm going to use Mixcraft 6. It's from Acoustica, American built, used it for donkey's years, a bomb proof. So that's the actual interface of Mixcraft. The beauty about Mixcraft is it's got an absolute arsenal of everything that you want. It's a recording suite, and all my recordings that I've done, because I'm a live musician, I've done around this software of Mixcraft. If you go onto Acoustica website, keep your eye on it. You do get deals now and again. I've seen recently selling Mixcraft 7 for just $49 for like 48 hours, when normally it's round about 185 of your American dollars. So it's quite expensive if you don't get a deal. It also comes with 30-day full working copy, so you can at least get it, try it out for 30 days. If you can get on with it, then make your commitment to purchase. So okay, what I'm actually going to do with this one, I'm actually going to bring in H.G. Wells. He's been around a bit as that one. Let's bring him into Mixcraft. Okay, there he is. I'm going to play that. I'm going to have to turn the volume down a bit, otherwise you're not going to hear my voice. So
no one would have believed in the last years of the 19th century that this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than man's and yet as mortal as his own. That as men busied themselves...
Okay, stop that for a second. What I'm actually going to do, I'm going to bring in what we call a spectrum analyzer. Right. Now what this actually does, it analyses the sound file that you're using. I'll just play a few seconds for that. Another advantage with Mixcraft, you can actually loop a section. So, and I'll just repeatedly keep playing that back.
Century, that this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than century, that this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences.
Turn that down so you can actually hear it. Now, as you can see here, now your vocal bands for a male voice is between about 65 to about 185 to 200 hertz, which is around this area here. Female, slightly different, 125 to say 265 hertz. So the female is going to be over this area, but predominantly it's this point here, which is your speech spectrum. Now I'll turn it back up. Hopefully you can still hear my voice.
By intelligences
it sounds okay.
That this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than century.
Sounds clear.
This world was being watched keenly and closely.
What I'm going to do now,
by intelligences greater than century. That this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than century.
Pause that a second. Now, when it comes to EQ, a lot of people, if you've got like a TV set, DVDs, music system, you're normally used to seeing a EQ such as this. This is a 7-band EQ, starts at 32 Hz, moves up to 500, 1K, 16K and so on. The human speech spectrum, we can actually hear as a human between 0 and 20,000 Hz. Some breeder dogs can listen up to 60,000 Hz, but normally with a human, if it's after 20,000 Hz, we simply won't hear it. It's out of our frequency band. So that's a normal 7-band EQ. You used to see them on various sound devices. What I'm now actually going to be using is a completely different sort of EQ, which is a 31 band, which is that one. Rather than having 7 bands, I've now got 31. So it's the same frequency split into 31 sections or parts rather than 7-band EQ. Now, what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to fire the track up.
That this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than
I don't think you can still hear me voice. And what I want you to do now is just listen as I now start to take frequencies out.
Keenly and closely by intelligences greater than century, that this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than century, that this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater.
As you're beginning to hear now,
this world was being watched keenly and closely.
The sound is beginning to dissipate.
This world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than century.
I'll deactivate that.
This world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than century. That this world was being watched keenly and
now what I have got on there is some presets that I often use.
That this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than century. That this world was
this is deactivated now. This is what the sound file sounds like. I'll turn it for touch.
That this world was being watched
sounds
keenly
quite
and
clear.
Closely by intelligences greater than century. That this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than century.
I'm now going to activate the equalizer.
Keenly and closely by intelligences greater than century. That this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than century. That this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than century. That this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than.
So what you actually notice there is that although the sound file that I started with is just a clean voice talking, I've actually improved it, because what I'm looking to do is to get the best possible sound, clearest sound out of the actual voice. And although I had something quite good to start with, by using just EQ, I've actually begin to improve it, so it's clearer to hear. The frequency itself may not be ideal. For example, if you're a vocalist, you may not want to sound that way, but when you're actually looking to address issues with voices and you want the clearest voice possible, then a little bit EQ is a better answer than attacking it with any sort of noise reduction sort of software. So that's that particular one. So I'll just play it again for you again. I'll activate it and deactivate it. So this is without the EQ edit.
Century, that this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than century. That this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than century. That this world was being watched keenly and closely by intelligences greater than century. That this world was being watched.
So it's gone a bit trebly, but what it has done, it's made the frequency clearer, okay, which is what you're looking to accomplish. Right, get rid of that. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in a file that has been supplied to me by Jenny off the Echo Box Facebook. This is that one, I think. Yeah, that's it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to loop that again so it just repeatedly plays, and I'll turn the volume down a bit so you can just listen to it again. Very noticeable it's too fast. So what I'm going to do with that one, I'm actually going to slow it down by a full 100%. So the words go a bit clearer because I obviously slowed it down. Be careful when you begin to stretch your time. You know, we've slowed it down by 100% because sometimes the pitch can change. This sort of software suite, you can adjust the pitch, but by a half, it's not too bad. But as you notice, if I take this to, let's take it to 400 beats per minute. Now you'll notice a difference. So the actual pitch itself begins to change. So that's something you just need to be aware of when you're slowing them down. That you might have to slow it. You know, you do slow it down, but the pitch might change. So you can always address that as well at the same time. We're going to do the same as what we did before. I'm going to bring a frequency analyzer in. And we're going to play this. Now remember, this is the frequency band of the human voice. So we're going to go, say, 50 to 300. Slowing it down now. I'm not sure what this word is. The loop is quite handy because you can keep your place. Sounds actually like London. And that almost certainly I have. As you can see here, the actual frequency of the full spectrum is quite weak on the vocal range. I've spoken, well not spoken, but I've had a message from Jenny, and what she's saying, the reason for that is she actually put it through some noise reduction software. So this is typical to what I've actually seen. This band here, it has been almost eradicated, and that's the reason why it's not as clear. So we're going to do what we did before. Let's bring some EQ into play. Right, there's the EQ. I'll turn it up so you can actually hear it. Now you can save presets on there. Here's one I've used before. We'll go to the one we used in the previous one. Okay, so as you probably agree now, that's just after a couple of minutes of of actually playing around, I have actually managed to come up with a better sound, even though that file that Jenny sent me over had been attacked big time. The key, if you use too much noise reduction software, is that if you listen to some of the voices sound robotic. Okay, I'll just play that again for you. Look at that. They sound robotic. So what's happened there is when Beth is attempted to reduce the noise, she's taken part of the frequency of the voice out, the bit that she needed to keep. So what I'm suggesting is, before you go down the extreme route of noise reduction, is look at EQ as a far better way of getting a clearer sound file, because you can take frequencies out and you can also increase them, particularly where you've got a voice that may be mixed in with white noise, that type of stuff. So hopefully that'll be useful to you. Keep firing your questions, and we'll see what we can do as far as getting your file which you've taken from Echovox to sound better, rather than making it sounding worse when you end up putting it through noise reduction software. Use that last resort. EQ is often the better of the option, and the beauty about using a software suite such as this, it doesn't damage the original file. Keep the original files intact, so you can go back to them later and resave these as different versions. Okay, hope that's useful to you.